He's about to hit 10k.
Whoa. Refresh it. 10k! Do you know what? I now have, more people are now subscribed to me than there have been years since God created the heavens and the earth. That's astonishing. Thank you guys. Good evening everybody, my name is Alex and I'm filming this a little bit later than I usually do, hence the lighting. Sorry it's so dark, but I've hit 10,000 subscribers, which is really cool. I did not expect this to happen, especially not so quickly, so I need to say thank you to every single one of you. And I thought I'd do a Q&A because I don't really know you guys yet. But before I get into that, I just want to show you something really cool. So if you didn't know already, when you hit certain subscriber milestones on YouTube, they sometimes send you these plaques, these play buttons. So when you hit 100,000, they send you this silver play button that you can hang on your wall. And I think when you hit 1 million, you get gold, and 10 million is platinum, something like that. But I've got my own special one for hitting 10,000 subscribers, which is completely unique to me, and it's the wooden play button. Now, this was made for me by two really good friends of mine who actually happen to have a YouTube channel. I'll tell you about it in a second. But yeah, so they handmade this for me. They even signed it on the back. It's just one of the coolest things that anybody has ever made for me. So I wanted to give them a shout out. They have a YouTube channel called Swish. I'm actually in some of their videos, so go and check them out. I'll leave a link in the description and here. One video in particular that I really like is we all took photos of ourselves and uploaded them to the subreddit Roast Me. We all sort of read out the comments that we got in a sort of mean tweets kind of style, and it was just such a laugh to make, so go and check that out. And if you have any roasts for me yourself, well, here's your opportunity. But anyway, it's time to get to the Q&A. So our first question comes from Facebook, from a guy called John. He asks, how old are you and what led to you being an atheist? Were you ever religious in your life? Now, quite a lot of you have asked me how old I am, and I've realised that I haven't actually told you, so I thought it'd be fun to see what you think. So I asked you on Twitter how old you think I am, and the majority of you think that I'm 20 years old. But well done to the 23% of you who got it right. I'm 17. Yep, I was born in 1999 on the 27th of March, one day after Richard Dawkins' birthday. Is that a sign? As for the second part, this was also a really popular question, sort of, have I ever been religious and what made me become an atheist if I was? I was actually a Catholic for most of my childhood, but I want to make an entirely separate video talking about why I'm an atheist. I think it's a topic that can do with a bit more detail than I'd be able to provide here. So hopefully that will cover how I became an atheist, my personal story, but also the why behind it, why I became an atheist and why I'm still an atheist today and why I talk so much about it. Chris on Facebook asks, how much research/time do you put into a typical video? Well, it depends on the video. If it's like a response video, which are typically my most popular videos, they're quite simple to make really, because there isn't really much thought that goes into it. I just sort of play the video here on my laptop and just sort of say what I think in response. So there's not really much planning or anything that goes into those sort of videos. The other videos I make take a little bit more time, specifically in the planning sort of area of it, especially the old Knowledge Box videos that I used to make. My channel used to be called Knowledge Box. It was that was all it was, until I realised I wanted to talk a bit more about religion and things. I can still make the Knowledge Box videos, by the way. I mean, quite a few people have watched them and sort of said that they like them, so if it's something you want to see me sort of continue sort of on the side, maybe, you know, here and there, a couple of more scientific videos, let me know in the comments. But yeah, those videos took quite a lot of planning because there was a lot of content to sort of put into there. I wanted to make them filled with facts and knowledge about a certain topic, so the research sort of took up the majority of the time. And also, I'm terrible at talking to a camera, especially when I have even something resembling a script, so they would take forever to film. But as a general sort of rule of thumb, a video took as long to make as the gap between that video and the video that came before it, because I pretty much start working on the next video immediately. What drives people to believe in religion in the first place, and do you think it's related in any way to mental health problems, or is it something closer to imaginary friends? Well, in terms of why people are religious, I think the biggest factor is their parents. If parents are religious, by and large their children will at least be brought up in those religions. They might apostatize out of those religions later on in life, but generally they'll adopt the religions of their parents. Think about a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew that you know, and then think about their parents if you know them. The chances are they share a religion with each other. But I've always been quite uncomfortable with the idea of babies being assigned religions. All the sort of big atheists, especially Richard Dawkins, have talked about this in the past, but saying that, you know, a baby or a child is a Christian is similar to saying that baby is a Marxist or a conservative or a liberal. It doesn't really make any sense. They haven't had the time to make up their own mind. It seems kind of weird to put an ideology on a child
who hasn't had the opportunity to come to their own conclusions. And naturally, I think this can actually be quite damaging. I think the most important thing that a parent can be in terms of religion and the upbringing of a child is secular. I don't really care what you believe, as long as you let the children come to their own conclusions when they're old enough. Eddie asks, what formal education do you have, and did it have an influence in becoming an atheist? I went to a Roman Catholic primary and secondary school, and ironically, I actually think that contributed to my atheism. Being surrounded daily by prayer and all these stories from the Bible, I asked quite a lot of questions, and because I never really got a solid answer from anybody, including teachers or parents or priests, that was kind of what made me realise that maybe these religions aren't all they're cracked up to be. So I can't help but wonder if I hadn't been sent to a religious school, if I would never really have questioned the sort of subtle religious teachings of my family. John on Facebook says, if God exists and he spoke to you directly, what would you ask/talk about? Well, the first thing I'd ask is, which one are you? You know, which religious doctrine is correct? Which dogma is justified? And secondly, I'd ask, are you omnipotent? Because if so, can all of the suffering of human beings on this planet, and leukemia in children, cancer in general, natural disasters, can they all be attributed to you? Because if so, then you can count me out of your plan. I don't want any part of your scheme. Thank you very much. How do you handle the condescending, I feel sorry you don't believe in anything, comment from close family and friends? So this comes up quite a lot. People often ask in some kind of bizarre attempt to refute atheism, well, where do you get your hope? What do you believe in? And I just sort of say, well, I believe in science. I believe in evolution. And to me, evolution is just as beautiful, just as spiritual, just as awe-inspiring as anything I ever got from religion. To think that every single person and every animal and every plant and tree on this planet are connected, are related, and share a common ancestor is an incredibly unifying realization. And to me, that's just something so incredible, and I just don't understand the insistence on such hostility towards it. I get fulfillment from books and music and art and literature. I don't really need your God. So thanks, but no thanks. Brandy asks, what's the best advice that you can give to people who have a desire to be as outspoken about atheism as you, but worry that it will affect business and personal relations? It's a tricky one. I understand how it can have quite a profound effect on your relations, especially with close family members who might share a religion with you. What I would say is, if you really want to get your voice out, there are plenty of platforms, things like the new app Candid, things like even Reddit and even YouTube to a certain extent, that have this anonymity that you can utilize in order to sort of express your opinions, but not let people know that it's you. I think this is why we're seeing a rise in the type of YouTube channels that don't, I don't know if you've seen them, they're these channels that don't show their faces, they put like an image, some of them do like video gameplay, and they sort of do voiceovers. And that's the sort of thing that I think can be the next platform for people who don't want to out themselves as atheists for worry of their sort of personal relations, but still want to get their voice out there. But on the other hand, I'd also say that unless you're sure that you'll be like completely disowned by your family and friends, which I understand a lot of people would be for expressing their atheism, which is ridiculous, by the way, but unless you're sure of that, give it a go. Just let someone know that you're an atheist. Let someone know that you're questioning your faith. See what they say. Most of the time, you'll probably find that their reactions aren't quite as severe as you think they're going to be. If your family and friends really care about you and really love you, then they should love you regardless of your religion. Now, I understand that this isn't true for everybody, but just pick someone who you think is least likely to have some kind of crazy reaction and just sort of imply it somehow. Just mention that maybe you're questioning your faith, maybe you're thinking you might be an atheist. See how they react. You might be pleasantly surprised. Would you clarify what atheism means to you? How do you feel your definition compares to other public atheists? So for me, I just look at the root of the word. So we have theist, which comes from the Greek theos for God, and a, which simply means without. Now, the a in atheist doesn't stand for actively against, right? So I refer to myself as an atheist. And by that, I don't mean that I actively believe there is no God. Here's an important distinction. I don't believe there is no God. I just don't believe that there is a God. Okay, and it's a subtle distinction, but basically I'm not actively saying there is no God. That would be arrogant and that would be unsubstantiated and unfalsifiable. But to say that I don't believe that there is a God is what I think atheism is. Without God, without the influence of a God. Not against God, but just living my life without the influence of any kind of deity or religious doctrine. What do you think of the possibility of aliens? Probable. Right, so what a lot of people don't realize about life on Earth is that it got started pretty much as soon as it could. As soon as the conditions were right on this planet for life to form, it did. which kind of implies that life is inevitable where the conditions are right for its existence. And so in recent years, the fact that we've been discovering so many habitable exoplanets, I mean, even the other day we discovered that our closest star, Proxima Centauri, has a habitable planet, or at least we think a habitable planet, orbiting it. That's really exciting. I think it's quite arrogant and egocentric to believe that we are the only life in the entire universe, especially given the size of the universe and how quickly life got started on Earth, as if it was inevitable. So I have absolutely no idea if we will discover alien life in our lifetimes, but I think in the lifetime of humanity as a species, we'll probably discover something, even if it's just some kind of really primitive or bacterial life on some distant exoplanet. I think it's out there. Super important question that no one seems to be asking. Did you like Suicide Squad? How do you tactfully initiate a debate about religion with someone, say a Jehovah's Witness that shows up at your door or outside a supermarket, or do you just ignore these people? I never know how to get into it with them. Well, my philosophy is if somebody challenges my religious beliefs, or lack thereof, I will pretty much always defend myself, but I won't necessarily go out of my way to challenge other people's, because that can be quite rude to do that. But in the case of like a Jehovah's Witness, if they come and they knock on your door and they try to tell you about their religion, you have every right to get into a debate with them. But what I will say, just because I feel a lot of people do this, is don't go out of your way, whatever you do, don't go out of your way to attack somebody's religious beliefs if they're not affecting you in any way. If you're like at a party and you find out that someone's a Christian, don't start throwing sort of arguments at them and asking them, how can they believe this? What about this? What about that? Just don't bother with it. That's not the time or the place. You only really should be discussing this sort of thing or challenging people's ideas in an environment where they expect it, okay? So maybe on like online debate forums, maybe on YouTube videos, if people post their own opinions first, then you have every right to debate them and protect your own ideas. But as far as initiating debates, only do it in appropriate circumstances. Do not go out of your way to attack people's beliefs just for the sake of attacking their beliefs. What music do you listen to? Okay, so growing up I was huge on like 70s classic rock. My favourite band by far was Led Zeppelin. I loved like Hendrix, the Eagles, Pink Floyd obviously with the poster. But since then, I've sort of listened to everything. I feel like it's really good to sort of listen to all sorts of different things. I think that's the most interesting way to listen to music, to keep things sort of fresh. And most recently, I've really grown to love sort of old school hip hop. I'm really into it. Like Illmatic has become one of my favourite albums of all time. It's just so brilliant. So just to give you an idea off the top of my head, like albums, my favourite albums of all time, things like Sgt. Pepper's, Hotel California, Led Zeppelin 4, Led Zeppelin 2, Illmatic, Dark Side of the Moon, Rubber Soul, you know, it's quite varied. It's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. Bobby Block, who I recognise as someone who's been watching my videos since the Knowledge Box era, so, you know, thanks for sticking with me, man. He asks, what is your favourite quote? I'm probably going to regret doing this just off the top of my head, but I think my favourite quote would probably be from Richard Feynman, who said, I would rather have questions which can't be answered than answers which can't be questioned. And for the final question I'm going to answer, where did I leave my keys asked, was there something specific that sparked your atheism? To which, unlike most atheists, I think I can really attribute my atheism, or what sparked my atheism, to a single book. I mean, there's so many books out there, things like The God Delusion, God is Not Great, The End of Faith, Letter to a Christian Nation, and usually people read these things and they see these people talking, and it all sort of combines into one driving force which drives people to atheism. But there was really one book that did it for me, and that's the Holy Bible. But anyway, that's the end of the questions. So I just want to say again, a massive thank you for 10,000 subscribers. Honestly, did not expect it. I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you to Swish for making me one of the coolest presents I've ever got in my life. I'm going to try and hang it up on the wall back there. Check them out on YouTube. Their channel is here. Go and watch the Roast Me video and roast me yourself. If you want to follow me on social media, you can do here. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Why are you wearing a helmet?